Welcome to the first episode of Firegrinders. My name is Sean, along with my good friend Sash. And we are going to introduce ourselves. We're going to be going down the road to teach you how to invest and reach FIRE, which is Financial Independence, Retire Early. There's a lot of ground to cover. We're going to basically take one topic a week over a certain period of time and build from the ground up. Teach you guys everything that you need to know, knowing nothing about investing, to the concepts behind some of the most effective approaches, to building your own portfolio, to all the aspects that come with that. So by the end of that core series, hopefully you guys will have your own portfolio in place. You'll have your own plan in place. You guys will be walking down the road towards FIRE.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that introduction, and I think it echoes some of the passion that we also feel in this space. Going from not knowing much about finance to actually being super passionate, not only about building our own portfolios, but also about teaching other people. And so, I think a lot of what we want to do is go on this journey with you, not only just deliver the information, but actually also maybe pull back the curtain a little bit and kind of talk about some of the things we're personally doing to also reach that FIRE status. Because, hey, we're all after the same thing, and why not go after this goal together and build a community at the same time? And so I'm really excited about that. Sean and I actually, we've known each other for a really long time, huh?
Yeah, about a decade now, right? Are we gonna embarrass ourselves and tell people where we met?
I've got the T-shirt on anyway.
You got the T-shirt already, bro. So we met playing a video game. We should put our glasses on and get our pocket protectors out. But we met playing a video game online 10 years ago and hit it off. We've been friends since. We've been good buddies, experiencing the marriage journey, the parenting journey, all that stuff over the years, and eventually discovered that we had this alignment of interest in financial and personal finance and investing, things like that. So yeah,
absolutely.
From Star Wars to here, huh? I feel like we should play the Star Wars theme.
Yeah, I think that I wonder if we'll get any copyright strikes for that, but I think it's a really cool idea. I might find an adaptation that we could use.
You should.
Totally.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Sean is right, man. Like we just we obviously had that initial passion for Star Wars, and I think what made that game so successful was that whole community aspect, right? Like being able to be part of a team, a guild, being able to actually work at the content together with other people who are kind of working at the same thing. And so I think, in a weird kind of way, a lot of what we're doing today has those foundations have been laid. It's been more than 10 years, man. It's been more than 10 years.
Yeah.
See that?
And don't worry, guys. We've grown up quite a bit in those 10 years, too.
Absolutely.
We won't be talking in guild terms or any of that stuff. So Sash, why don't you give everyone a little background for you, where you come from, what your background is in terms of investing, finance, business, what brought you to this space and wanting to do this?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then I'll do the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I come from South Africa. And for those people who know anything about South Africa, we're a relatively developing country. It is very advanced compared to other African nations, but we've still got a long way to go. And I grew up in that environment, which is kind of post-apartheid, right? So what that means is I grew up in a time where opportunities were not equal for all people in South Africa, and so low to middle income is was kind of my environment, and so for the longest time I was exposed to just this constant drive towards getting out of the environment and getting to the next tier, the next level. That was mostly because of my dad, of course, who always emphasize the importance of education and success. And so working through that environment, I kind of found that I never really, no matter how hard I worked in South Africa. My background, of course, is in production. So I graduated with a film and television production degree, and then I eventually got into teaching media, art, and design. And so no matter how hard I worked in all of those industries for the longest time, I just could never get to where I wanted to be financially. I could never, afford my own house. I could never really, put money aside every month. It was always, in many cases, paycheck to paycheck. And, we weren't lavish. We were pretty frugal, right? But economic circumstances kind of dictated that. So I wanted, for the longest time, to kind of experience what it was like to be financially independent, to not have to be confined by the status quo or the economic condition of my environment. I wanted to break out of that. Of course, I grew up in a household that was more academically inclined instead of financially or business inclined. And so I obviously went down the academic path instead of the, hey, here's business and here's how you can make it work and solve people's problems and obviously change your lives. But like that's a little bit about like my main motivation, right? So I came from that place where I could never dream of affording to go to a school overseas, right? University overseas. I've always wanted to go do like a master's degree in filmmaking or like film directing or something in like UCLA, But I could never afford it, right? And I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand why, right? I couldn't understand like no matter how hard I worked, even after I was a professional, right? Even after I had worked for so many years, it was just so unattainable, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit about my motivation. I'll come back to a lot of my accomplishments later, but fast forward, like I became an entrepreneur after I moved to Dubai. I've been an entrepreneur now for about it's been a really long time, about 5 years now. And I've been an investor since 2014, sort of late 2014. Of course, learned lots of hard lessons, or rather lots of lessons the hard way.
Sure,
But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. What about you, Sean?
Great. So I am from Tucson, Arizona. I was born and raised here. I, by profession, am a firefighter paramedic here in Tucson. I have had I wouldn't call it a career path so much as a career meandering. Went to school for a degree in writing, and ended up getting out working in a hotel for about 5 years, and then decided to try firefighting, and that's been my career for the last 12 years. As far as money and finance goes, it's not something that's been a real focus of mine throughout my life. It's at best been a peripheral consideration, but I'll be completely forthright. It's not something that I've always been the best with. In my 20s, I had significant credit card debt, no savings, was living on my own, living the bachelor life, doing all that. And money was just a peripheral consideration. It wasn't something that I was aware of. I wasn't building a plan. I wasn't working towards anything in that regard. And it's something that honestly I have a little bit of regret about, because I think if I'd started then, I would be in a very different place now. Time is the best factor when it comes to investing for you. It builds the most potency. Yeah. But yeah, I reached a point, I met my wife, and we got married, and I reached a point where I realized that we needed to set up a better plan for our future. We were thinking down the family road. Being my experience with money has always been kind of a grappling affair. I figured, I need to get this aspect of a very important aspect in life under control. Yeah. We'd been contributing to retirement for years, but I had no idea where the money was going. I didn't know what our accounts looked like. I didn't know what stocks or bonds or mutual funds or any of that was. I just knew we were putting this chunk of our paycheck into this vaporous notion of retirement, And I figured I'd figure it out later, but I figured at this point I need to get that dialed in. So I had a couple options. I realized I could either go to someone and pay someone a percentage of our assets to do a plan for us and get us on the road, or I could spend a little time and figure it out myself. And I've always been the type to take those things on when I realize there's an area of life that's important that I don't have figured out. My personal inclination is to get in there and just figure it out and try and not master it, because I feel like this is one of those areas that you never truly master, but to develop some proficiency with it. So that's what I did. I started picking up books, and luckily the first couple of books that I picked up were John Bogle's Little Book of Common Sense Investing, which I still think is one of the best works out there if you're just starting out. And also J.L. Collins' The Simple Path to Wealth. Those two books were life-changing for me. Those two things put a lot of things in perspective for me and really started me down this road. Yeah. And I had this moment as I was doing this, as I was building our plan and realizing that this is within reach. It's not as complex, it's not as daunting as I thought it was when I started out. Yeah. I had a moment where I realized there's a lot of people in my life that they could probably use this information, and I had a good friend of mine on the department, and his wife, that's also a good friend of mine. We were talking about it, and I ended up writing a couple emails, just kind of breaking down what I learned and how my approach to investing was building, and sent it off to them. And then I realized, maybe I could take that email and turn it into something a little bit more substantial, and started writing. And just basically built what I called at the time the Index Investing Primer, which is just basically a nearly 20-page guide to getting started from the ground up. And then in communications with Sash, I ended up posting it out there for my friends on Facebook. It was a free resource. I wasn't looking to make anything on it. I was just looking to help people, as I myself was helped. I was looking to help people get off the ground that way, and sent it out there on Facebook. Sash reached out to me and said, "Hey, you should really consider putting this out in a web interface, with a landing page and building subscriptions and getting it out there via email. I think you could reach a much wider audience." And so the honest response is I sat on that for a little while, because that's not my area. That's not my purview. I didn't know what that meant. But eventually came around, and Sash has helped me build a website called Fight Fire with Fire. That I've recently started up about a month ago, that I'm now doing a series of posts on, building that content, and I've got 7 posts out so far, that basically are that guide that I wrote broken down into different format and a little bit more comprehensive. So, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
I just gotta say, on that point, I am so proud of you on the record.
Well, thanks, man. I'm appreciative for the help. So, you've helped me a lot in that regard. So,
no, seriously, man. It's amazing that, we got to create something so quickly that's so valuable, right? And hopefully it'll go on to touch many, many more lives. And so I guess one of the things that we wanted to do was use this format of podcasting to try and maybe unpack some of those posts that you're making through your own words, right? And so people get to kind of hear it slightly differently than if they were just to read it on the website.
Right.
And so I'm really excited about doing that.
I am too. I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be really awesome. You mentioned earlier, you weren't very conscious about money for a long period of time, and then you got married, and then you started. So walk me through that transition point. When did you actually decide, or how did that whole decision process happen that you're like, okay, we need to put money away, or we need to try and build wealth? What mental or paradigm type of shift happened that caused this decision?
It was a focus away from self. Honestly, it was a focus away from. To that point, I've been living my life for me, and just following my own aims, doing what I wanted to do, and just not really having a lot of considerations as far as responsibility or family goes. And when I married my wife, we started talking down the family road. I realized, okay, there comes a point where I need to get some things dialed in, just to be a responsible father, a responsible husband. And that was one of the central aspects for me, was realizing financially, that's not something that I'm really good at. Honestly, that was something that I've always had challenges with and just never taken seriously. And that was that was the impetus for me to get started. Was, okay, this is something we need to get dialed in, especially if we're going to bring children into the world, and start down that road. It's a big kick in the butt in a lot of ways, and that was one of the ways.
Kids can be expensive, man.
Yeah, they really can.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really, really cool. I think for me, like, coming to Dubai. I currently live in Dubai, and this is the best part about the time that we live in, by the way, is that we get to share our experience from these completely different perspectives. Like Sean and I have known each other for the longest time, right? He's probably one of my oldest friends, but we've never actually met each other in person.
Yeah. So you need to move to Arizona, dude. What are you doing in Dubai? I mean, come on, let's get out here.
I probably will, actually, but this is the best. This is the best point, right? Like that we don't have to all be in the same place or have access to the same things, or be in the same financial situation or whatever.
Absolutely.
We can still share this knowledge, and we can share it from these vastly different economic and cultural perspectives. And I'm really looking forward to learning your perspective, especially within the United States and that kind of environment. I know we probably will have lots and lots of listeners from that region, but then we also are going to have lots of listeners from this region, from the Middle East, probably from Africa, and so I'm really looking forward to this becoming a kind of multicultural, diverse piece of content that can be applied to any socio-economic context.
Yeah. Likewise, it's going to be a meeting of worlds in terms of cultures, in terms of investing approaches, in terms of knowledge bases. I know your knowledge base where finance and investing is concerned is different than mine. And I look forward to the complementary ways that we can see those things, dovetail with each other. And yeah, I mean, even the time zone, right? Like, what time is it right there? Right now. Yeah.
It is currently 9:11 p.m.
So if you open the shades there, you're going to see the night sky. Here, you can see the sunlight. I mean, literally, there's a chronological difference there too. It's kind of fun, but I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I really am too. And so, guys, we just wanted to use this first episode to give you a little bit of a glimpse about who we are as people. And that's the most important thing, right? We're people. We're not special in any way. We don't have access to anything special or any special financial vehicles. We're just
started where you are.
Absolutely. And the goal is, I guess, to try and grow together. So if you're just starting out, if you are asking yourself or yourselves some of these questions, like, how do I invest? What is investing? Why should I be concerned with financial independence? If you've ever wondered or pondered any of those questions, we hope that this show will be of value to you. So we really look forward to creating some really awesome content for an amazing community.
So I think that the general plan is going to be to start off from the ground up, assuming that everyone is starting from a level playing field, that you don't know anything about investing, you don't know anything about approaching personal finance, and building from the ground up. And if you happen to be someone that knows about certain areas, you can skip around to different episodes, different shows, find things you're interested in. If you're someone that really wants to start from that place, from a true blank slate, and build to a point where you have a plan in place and you've implemented it and you're building your future, that'll be helpful for you too.
Absolutely.
So I think with our next episode, we're going to start off in that regard. And it's always been my opinion that not everyone is ready to invest immediately, depending on your specific financial situation. There's a couple things you probably should have dialed in before you think of investing. We're going to start from a place of exploring those two things, and they primarily come down to an emergency fund and your debt position. So we're going to explore those two things: how to know when you're ready, how to get yourself dialed into the point where those two things are in line and you're ready to launch on your investing journey. And we'll explore those two things in depth before we really get into the nuts and bolts of investing. So
absolutely, I'm really excited. Make sure you subscribe and definitely share this episode with people that you think could benefit from this, because it's going to be a really wild ride. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be exciting. And we're really, really, really looking forward to building an amazing community. So we'll see you
absolutely
in episode 2.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time. We'll see you soon.
Take care.